As always, it's me, Emperor AP, and today we were going to try and go to Vitae. However, it is pouring down raining here. So that being the case, we are instead going to be continuing to work on shaping this steel. Now, last time we were able to get 6 good pieces, basically. So these are our 6 good pieces here that we want to. Well, there's actually one more here than that, but one of these is a defective piece. We made 7 total, 6 that are actually going to be functional and usable. So these are them. However, we now need to get to the rest of them. We have a ton. Let me show you guys. Absolutely massive amount of this sheet steel, and even more than that, actually, to go. So if you hear it clanging around, we have quite a bit to work on. Serb said, hey, it's Fishistan. I keep changing identity. Good to see you, Serb. Thank you for being here, and thank you for liking the video. It helps us a lot to grow and to continue making Aeternia a better and better place. I hope Fishistan is doing well. I hope your YouTube channel is doing well. I hope things are going well for you. I know it is getting close to Christmas time for a lot of people, getting into a celebrating holiday spirit, regardless of what holidays you celebrate. Winter in general, kind of a pretty nice holiday time, and the new year coming up. So I hope everybody's enjoying time with their families, having fun. But we in the Empire are just about always on the grind. So continuing our work into improving our assets. So I've relatively flattened this piece out. Gonna fold it up, get to work, see how many we can crank out today. James says consistency is key, 100%. Thank you so much, James, for joining in. I completely agree. As you mentioned, we discussed trying to show people other sides of what we do here in Aeternia, I think is important, and I hope people are getting something out of it. We can always continue to modify the way that we do the streams as far as what type of content we get out there, what we're actively trying to achieve during a stream, or maybe even the style of the stream itself, doing the same type of thing, but a little bit of a different visual style or a different, organization for the stream. But that all being the case, we really, and I mean really, want to try to continue to get that idea out there for people. First off, 23 viewers, 3 likes. Thank you guys for being here. James says, AP, unless you're going for hyper precision, I recommend using the full length of the hammer. More power, less energy used on your part. Keep a looser grip and use gravity to your advantage. I definitely appreciate it. With this, you do kind of need some precision, though. Specifically because I'm trying to tap right on that edge, and because I'm trying to get this thing lined up real well, it's much easier to get some focus down on this. Matthew Sullivan said, love the hair team, long hair. Completely agree. A lot of the time I style it actually like off to the side like this, so I'll have it kind of pulled off, but it naturally falls back the other way. Thank you so much. James asked, what are you using these cans for? That is a great question. So like I brought up previously, in the last stream, talked about in our cutting stream as well, we made these last time. Now what we're doing with them is we're actually going to take these, which are a condensed version of this, where we just fold it 3 times. It makes it dense enough that we can actually weld with them, weld these guys together. This side, of course, looks ugly. I'm not the best at welding, and also these things are really rough to weld. Even, at this ability, it's still hard to weld them. But we get this double stacked up piece here. One of the things that we are experimenting with, I don't want to give too much away, but is with some plating. So in particular, we're going to be designing a piece of, I guess it's not clothing, almost jewelry for this. We're going to be designing something for a special someone that we're going to be creating, especially for them. We're going to be trying things out, testing things out for a piece of headwear that will be coming soon. So that being the case, going to be working on that, trying to perfect this style, trying to see what we can do with it. And then once we get this down, it's going to give us, you know, quite a bit of ability to work with this material. I want to get into jewelry making with this kind of stuff. I want to get into aesthetics with this because once we get things that are real tough to design and shape like that, we can. James says welding rods. All right. Well, so we're not using these as the welding rods. We're not depositing steel with this. We are welding these things together. But we'll use welding rods if I have some right here. Yeah. So these are welding rods, right? These are the things that we use to deposit the metal. And maybe I can do that on stream. It's just gross to do it on stream because you can't really see what I'm doing. And I'm bad at welding, so I'm sure I will get absolutely flamed if there are any welders who are in the stream, but that's all right. We live and we learn. So again, what we're going to be using for these is actually designing some pieces of decoration, headwear, like I said. So we're going to be getting into that. That's going to require a lot of shaping, a lot of working with this material, a lot of connecting and welding multiple different pieces. And the benefit of doing this is once we can get all of those connections together, once we can get this nice, real elaborate piece made, we will be good at not only welding, but using these pieces of sheet steel in general. Since it is something that's going to be decorative, it's going to have to require an aesthetic. It's going to get us better at, of course, making these welds. We've done a few others where there have been like big holes in the welds. And so if I can find some, let me show you guys. So we have some like these. This one wasn't too bad once I actually banged it down, but there's a few little holes there in the weld. This one was pretty bad there with a big old burn in it. That being the case, once we get good enough with this, we can really start to do things that are much more elaborate. You know, we have a ton of these pieces of sheet steel here. So once we actually condense them down like this, we can start to weld these things together and make big sidings. For example, maybe for a throne, maybe for, you know, some additional decorations for the dwelling out at Vitae, you know, putting some decoration on the sidings, maybe putting some design on the doors that we're going to be making for it. We could be using these in general to make things like little decorative boxes, welded decorative boxes that we send out when we send out, you know, care packages to other nations, when we do trades with other nations. We in Aeternia are all about trying to do things ourselves, trying to make our own assets, trying to be unique. If you get something from the Empire of Aeternia, we don't just want it to be, oh, we purchased this thing from somebody online and it looks kind of cool and it looks kind of fancy and we threw a bunch of stuff together and we sent it out. We make our things. The patch that we made for James, we made it ourselves. We ended up, granted, we were going to buy it originally, but we gritted our teeth. We were able to design it and make it, tried that out for the first time, and it ended up working for us, and I think it came out pretty nice. Everything that we have sold on Etsy ever, on the Imperial Market, we've designed ourselves, and this is no different. If we have the ability to take things, especially things that would otherwise be thrown away, recycle them, do a little better for the planet, and also turn them into usable assets for us, it's the cheapest way to go and one of the most effective. James brings up, I was thinking it might be easier to use a Discord bot to scan for your streams and feedback to present announcements with the stream link. I think that is a great idea, James. We have had a Discord bot previously. We used Me6. If any of you guys know more about YouTube Discord bots, things like that, generally used Me6. The issue with Me6 was it would take forever to actually post the stream link. And so a lot of the time, what would happen is that either one would just miss the stream, or two, you know, after the stream was over, it would go ahead and post it. So it was very hit or miss, quite literally. We would need a better Discord bot to do that. So if you guys have ideas on that, let me know. James says, as for the hammering, maybe an auto hammer would be worthwhile, depending on how many cans you need to hammer. I completely agree. It's also difficult because I am still learning how to do things like this, you know, as far as blacksmithing goes. We also have a limited budget, so an auto hammer will be something that does take some time for us to equip our shop with here, equip our metals refining industry with. However, eventually, if we do get the ability to do that, that'll be nice. And hopefully by that time, I have perfected the ability to make these, because if that hammer is going, the hammer can go pretty slow, but I'd still have to be really, really good about trying to make sure that I hold everything steady. So that will be a learning process. James says, anyone want to volunteer to create a custom Discord bot for that purpose? That would be a great question. Also, James, if you do want to greet people and hang out with people, if you have a little bit of time today, I would certainly appreciate it, because I think I'm going to shut up for a little bit. It seems like when I talk during the streams, it encourages people from jumping in. I think a lot of people just like maybe the aesthetic of watching whatever newcomers. So I do want to give them a chance to jump in and enjoy the stream a little bit. So I am going to be quiet, see how many people the Empire can bring in, and hopefully they join in, jump in the chat, and become a part of the conversation with you guys. But if you do have any questions for me, definitely drop them down below. I am also just crazy slow when I talk to the camera, when I talk to you guys in the chat. James says, I am become public relations officer. Destroy your questions. I appreciate it. James says, AP, please just use more of the hammer. It would be so much easier on you. This is painful to watch you try to bend the metal into place. I appreciate it. The thing is, it really is like a precision thing, though. Like that's the thing that's tough. If I go real hard with the hammer, it flattens it down really, really thin, which is good. That's, you know, more powerful. But then the issue is, you get to this point where if I flatten it down too hard and I made a mistake, which I won't know till I get them really, really closely lined up, if I've made that mistake, then it's hard to get this metal to unbend. So yeah, sure, I can take it and I can, you know, do that. However, then my strikes are certainly not as precise, and I can end up making little like bends like that. It's just not as nice. These little taps, even though, yeah, I get it, they may not be as aesthetically pleasing. They are certainly effective for what I'm doing, because again, I'm just trying to very slightly bend the metal each time I hit it, and then check it, and then check it, and then check it. It's a technique of sorts, I suppose. But I do appreciate the advice, James. Definitely for, you know, woodworking, for anything like that, yes, I definitely get that it's quite cringy. But for this, there is a method to the madness, so to speak. Part of my issue here that I'm having to try to figure out is I got to change where I actually did my scoring. I made this mark on where I want this thing to start. And now I have to kind of go back and change where that is. Which is a little bit easier said than done, especially since the entire rest of the piece of metal wants to bend in that same direction. And I don't know if I've gotten it until I finish hitting it in place. But that is pretty good. That came out a lot nicer, a lot more of what we want to see. James says, bring the hammer up, then like gravity, bring it down. Should be better for that amount of pressure. Cooking. I see you. I see you, James. James teaching me just period how to use a hammer. Just in general, for all purposes. I appreciate you, James. James has the power of common sense on his side. I certainly appreciate it. Speed up my learning process a little bit. Okay. Okay. Okay, James. Effective technique. I see you. I appreciate it. James says, can you explain what are you making with all the steel? Welding rods. Not true. Not welding rods. I get why you're saying welding rods, James, but these are welding rods, the thing you use to deposit the metal. We are not making welding rods, but you know, a little bit more complex answer. We are making condensed sheets of steel effectively. I guess you can call them welding rods. It works. Simpler explanation. That we're making things to weld, rods to weld with, not necessarily welding rods. James said, sorry, all good. I appreciate it. James said, then I entirely misheard what you explained 5 minutes ago. Right, we're not using them to deposit metal. We are actually using them as sheets to make welded pieces. We are welding these things together into larger sheets of steel that are much more condensed, and we're going to use them to make things like forms of jewelry, not jewelry like bracelets or necklaces, but forms of it. Going to eventually use it to make larger paneling for things like the doors at Vitae, for things like, you know, accent work on our buildings, for making little custom steel boxes that we use to send off to people when we send them gifts and things. All sorts of stuff. It is a multi-purpose asset. And I will prove to you all the versatility of this asset when we start making those items. Also, thank you guys for being here. 5 viewers, 5 likes. James says, how's your stream looking? Is the artifacting only on my end? It looks clear to me. I'm not sure if it is clear, but that could be a quality issue on my end. Let me see if I am. Okay, that's part of it. I should be connected to Wi-Fi. Give me 1 second. Let me know if it clears up on my end or not. Or let me know if it clears up on your end, rather. Because now I should have a different source of internet that I'm using. So maybe that improves things a little bit. And if not, let me know. Keep me updated. Thank you, James. slightly better. James, I was trying to bring up a special thing. Yeah, for sure. It would be interesting to see that. Absolutely. That may be what I was referring to with jewelry, but you never know. You never know what we could be making. We could be making anything. But it could be exactly what James just put. Maybe not. You never know. But it could be. James, thank you for answering all the questions in the chat. It means a lot. One down. I guess that's two. Okay, let's see. Hey, Dad. Working on these little pieces of metal. I'm on a live stream right now, talking to people. No, you're fine. No, you're fine. How you doing? That's good. Just trying to shape them into these things. I don't think she's sleeping. She's hanging out. I'm not sure if she's sleeping. She's in the room. I can check. James says, we greet the unknown off-camera person. I appreciate that, James. That was my father. He was coming outside to check to see what I was up to and to see what Tiffany, my girlfriend, is up to. So, hanging out, always good to see him. He has not been on the YouTube channel very much, but he is someone I care about very dearly. Obviously is my dad, but also just someone I look up to, you know. He has gone through a lot personally, has some health complications and stuff, so always glad to get to spend time with him. James says, sounds like an older male. All right, chat, let's theorize about the mysterious off-camera person. I can elucidate some of that. Hopefully I'm using that term correctly. So that was my father. He is an older man. He is 76, 77. Yeah. And so he was born in, I'm going to goof the math on camera now, but he was born in 1945. He was born right at the end of World War II. He is a much older man. He's a very cool guy. He, especially as of late, has been telling me stories more from his childhood, which is really cool. I originally am from Louisiana, and he is as well. And so he, different part of Louisiana, but he would tell me stories about that. And I didn't get to hear those stories a ton when I was a child. He constantly worked. But as of late, him being retired, like I said, having some health issues, we have gotten to spend a good bit more time together. And so he has gotten to tell me those cool stories that I have been really eager to hear. So it's been cool to get to have a closer relationship with my dad and get to know more about him, get to really learn about what life is like from his perspective. Great to see everybody. Glad you guys are hanging out with us. And if you're new here, please like the video. If you have a question about what the heck we're doing, please feel free to drop a comment or to ask our amazing citizen James, who's in the chat, who is helping us out here today, providing insights while I am distracting myself with this work here. Again, big thank you to James. Flinoy says, ooh, hammer. Sure is. Give a big like for hammer, for tiny hammer. 1 like equals 1 tiny hammer. That James can teach me how to use. I'm following the technique, James, don't worry. Not too shabby. A little bit of error, but not too bad. Let me see how many usable ones we've got now. We've made basically 3, so let's see. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like we have 11 right now. I'm going to go ahead and do maybe 3 more, get around 14, see how we do there. See if I can pick up the pace a little. TB asking the real questions. Do you imagine the steel is the skull of your enemies? I don't, but I tell you what, TB, it certainly could be. And if that's what you imagine, if that's your arrow of progress guiding you forward, then you know what? We support you, TB. We will metaphorically crush the skull of your enemies together here on this stream. But in order to do that, you gotta like the video, because otherwise it's the skulls of your allies. So don't make it the skull of your allies, make it the skull of your enemies. And we will keep on grinding. But at the same time, we're making it into nice, useful stuff. So maybe you don't want the skull of your enemies to be used for beneficial gains. Increasing the value of them as assets. But we shall see. TV said, bloody L, I just gave a like then. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. If you don't know TB, we are a micronation. We are the Empire of Aeternia, growing and developing every day, trying to expand our community, trying to stand up for what's right and help people with the arrow of progress, just like James, our citizen, so eloquently put in the chat. James says, together we will forge the arrow of progress. Absolutely. Thank you, James. And that is for sure what we're up to today. This is kind of a long grind here. The people who have stuck around in these streams and hung out, it is an incredible testament to your will, especially James. He has been the welcomer and the well-wisher for all newcomers, for all people who have been in the chat. He is our imperial advisor. He is, our imperial ambassador. He is also an amazing advisor to me. But he is someone who has been incredibly wonderful and helpful, not only in this stream, but in a lot of our society. And so if you want to hit him up, if you have any questions about what we're up to, or if you want to learn about how to become a part of the Empire of Aeternia and help him out, help us out, it would mean a great deal. Squeezing it up real good. Very professional method. All the pros do that for sure. I've seen them. I've met every pro blacksmith, and they all crinkle small cans in their hands. Facts. And they also use incredibly tiny hammers all the time. The smaller the hammer, the better, as they say. Empire of Whitewind said the smaller the better, given that sus look. Worried about the implications I just implied. Great to see you, Whitewind. Thank you for being here. And as always, bringing the levity to the chat means a lot. Noble Stan says hello. Great to see you, Noble Stan. I notice you are now Imperial Noble Stan. What is that about? Give us some updates on your nation. And also thank you guys for the likes. Helps us to forge the arrow of progress, as James so eloquently said. James asking a good question. He asks, AP, would it not be more simple to melt down the cans and make the metal bars into a sand cast? In a sand cast, cold forging is hard on the hands and takes time. It would be if it were aluminum, copper, bronze, something like that. Steel is such a high temperature metal. It has such a high melting point that it is really hard to melt steel and also really dangerous. We have some personal protective equipment that can help with that. But that being the case, it would be a two-person job, and we really don't have enough personal protective equipment to adequately protect two people. As well, steel at the melting points that it has boils. So if you are truly getting it to the heat that you need to cast it properly, it is going to be boiling. You also need to make sure that the thing that you pour it into is at a near similar temperature. James says, so it is steel. Chat and I agreed it would have to be aluminum. No, this is steel. That's why I'm saying, you know, when we weld this, we're welding steel together. These stick electrodes, these welding rods, so to speak, are for steel. 6013 is what this is. It is a steel alloy. And yes, we are using steel. Aluminum is nice for a lot of different things, and we can cast aluminum. However, the big issue with aluminum is that there is limited application. You know, if we want to cast something that is aluminum, right now we don't use a sand casting method. We use a different method that is a liquid liquid ceramic that we dry onto it. It gives a nicer, higher quality, higher detail cast, but it's quite expensive to use, and it also is kind of risky because unlike sand, where you can pour it in and then check to see how well your cast worked out and then do it again, these ceramics, you dip it in, you let it dry, you do that over and over again, you heat this thing until it becomes the shape that you want, around a, you know, it's an investment cast. So you burn out the thing that you made the shape out of originally, you're left with this nice cast, and then you can go ahead and pour your metal into there. But if there were any imperfections in the cast, you have wasted all that time and effort in trying to do it, and it fails, and then you redo it over and over again. It is good for high quality, high detail work, and we may use that for a lot of like the detailing on some different finer jewelry pieces, or something that is supposed to be particularly ornate. We may want to cast the individual pieces of those because we could make a lot of different copies and try them all in a cast and then see how well that works out and take the good ones and remelt the bad ones. But this steel is incredibly hard to work with, you know, in a pour, in actually casting it. Now, we can get a forge and actually have it hot enough that we can go ahead and work with it a little bit easier. However, at this point, to save our propane, which we use a propane furnace to do a lot of our bulk work, it's just about as easy for us to go ahead and cold forge this stuff. That being the case, you are absolutely right. In the future, it would be nice to have a hot way of doing this so that it increases our efficiency and also gives us just a nicer quality output in the end. James says, so it is steel. Chat and I agreed it would have to be aluminum. This is steel. This is steel. This is tin cans like you get green beans, for example, or lima beans or something like that, black-eyed peas. These are the cans you see on store shelves. These are steel primarily. That being the case, you know, things like soda cans are an aluminum alloy. Those are, we do actually melt. We collect those and we have made ingots as well as a couple of other small items that we have cast out of those. So certainly something to do more with. And as we get better and better with welding, our welding machine behind us, as I will point out, that guy right there can do stick welding, MIG welding, and TIG welding, which MIG and TIG welding, well, TIG welding is specifically a different thing. MIG welding, metal inert gas, more general. MIG welding would be nice for, you know, kind of combining these two efforts, having something like if we wanted to weld aluminum. You can stick weld aluminum, but it's not particularly easy from what I hear. Marjorie Brunet joined in and said, hi, I'm new here. What are you doing? That's a great question, Marjorie. Thank you for being here. We are the Empire of Aeternia. We are a micronation. As of right now, I am working on cold welding some steel from cans. So if you're a crafty person, what we are doing is we're getting cans like this that you would get, you know, some average green beans, something like that in, some peas, something. Great to see you, Jet Fan, as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for liking if you do and subscribing if you do. Back to Marjorie's question. We are shaping these pieces of steel can, which in a previous video we actually cut into this flattened shape. And we are now flattening them down into this, which is much more condensed. And you'd say, why would you take all the time and effort to go from something like this, which looks like you can make it into stuff, into something like this? This is much more dense, and we can weld with it. So this is actually two pieces of these little bars like this that we have gone and actually welded together. Now, my welding is disgusting, so definitely don't judge me there, but this leaves a nice clean output on the other side. It looks a little bit burnt up, but we can clean that down and polish it up and make it nice and shiny. And what that allows us to do is to keep stacking these. So we can make, this is pretty dense, pretty solid stuff. Can't just take it apart at a whim, pretty nice stuff. What we can do is we can keep stacking them like that and make larger and larger plate material. That can be used for decorations. That can be used for, adding to additional welds. We may make some custom boxes for sending people out different items that we want to. All sorts of stuff. We actually are working on a building project out at our capital territory of Vitae, where we are building a shed that is the first experimental dwelling we're working on. It's not anything anybody's going to live in, but for now we're going to use it to store tools, things like that, maybe go camping out there. It is a completely undeveloped property, so no running water, no electricity. Helpful to have something that we can have out as kind of a little permanent base camp out there. And so we're going to be making doors soon for it. We're just now working on the roof. And so once we get to the step that we want to, we'll be making doors with it. And we can use things like this to make cool decorations and extra support for the doors. So if you are interested in doing any kind of recycling, if you're interested in doing any kind of metalworking, this is a relatively easy thing to get into. And it is something that can turn this, what would be trash, into a usable, functional asset for our future work. So thank you for asking. In particular, we'll probably be using these first up to try and make some jewelry. James says, AP unintentionally making, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, lamellar armor. Not accidentally, James. We are for sure trying to start making armor with this. This is one of the things that we're going to be doing with it. If you remember, previously we had talked about making some similar things for, showing off the Empire, trying to make some. Ooh, Marjorie Brunet said, okay, thank you, 1+ sub. Yo, Marjorie, thank you so much. That helps us a ton, especially as a relatively small micronational YouTube channel. Helps us every single time we get a subscriber. We also are on Instagram, TikTok, all those other places if you want to follow us there. We also have a Discord where you can join in. And if you want to become a citizen, there are ways to do that too on our website. But James, armor is absolutely something that we would look into making with this. One of the big issues that we had talked about and run into is, hey, how the heck are we going to, if we wanted to make like cool armor for people to be recruits, be recruiters, I should say, people who would go out into the local community and say, hey, we are the Empire of Aeternia. We're a cool group of people. We're trying to build a new country. Do you want to be involved? It would be so cool to have like a guy in armor show up. It'd be exciting. Obviously no sword, no weapons, nothing like that, but just somebody in fancy regalia to come and talk to people, to show off our culture, to maybe do some sort of ceremonies during events, to give presentations on our behalf, to maybe do some sort of ceremonial performance at events, things. That being the case, those people would need, well, they wouldn't need it. It'd be nice to give them armor. James bringing up any armor would be purely ceremonial, 100%. Thank you, James. So that being the case, when we are doing this and we're making this armor, it would be incredibly expensive to go out and buy armor. It would be incredibly, incredibly expensive to go out and buy armor. And so if you became one of the people that we wanted to recruit, James says, AP, we have to get you a crown before we make armor. I appreciate it. I would actually like to make crowns for others. I think it would be cool. There's so many micronationalists out here who, want a way to step up their game, want a way to do things like that. And so I would love to be able to get them crowns. I would say, I know crowns are sort of a figurehead piece. They're sort of a, a fancy way of making yourself look cool and bringing up the stature of your nation. I would much prefer to sell or give away crowns to people who I think are worthy of them than put a crown on my own head. I think in the Empire of Aeternia, we shouldn't designate who the leader is by a fancy piece of headwear. And in particular, if we do decide to do that, I certainly am not one for for crowns or pageantry too much. Maybe I should be, just to elevate the position. You know, maybe I'm wrong about that. But I feel as though, you know, I am a pretty simple guy. I'm a humble man, I'd like to think. And so that being the case, I want to lead with my actions. I want to lead with my words. I want to, you know, I want to embody the arrow of progress and the leadership of the nation by being recognized as the person who is taking charge of that, by being the person who is making the decisions, not necessarily the person who is wearing a crown. James says, a crown is not to look cool, it's a physical reminder of the weight of responsibility you have for your country. Absolutely, and I completely agree with that. I don't know if a crown is necessarily the right way to go, especially because many people's objections to monarchies, in particular, especially, you know, historically, has been elegance, has been, you know, this pageantry of sorts that it is created there. And so I think I worry that even though you're right, crowns are 100% something that is should be used, I should say, as a, you know, a symbol of authority, but also a symbol of the weight of responsibility that a leader has. I think a lot of the time in popular media, they have become associated with decadence, and they have been associated with, you know, cruel leaders and people who are very self-serving. And so I would like to not be associated with that. James says, this is a benevolent absolute monarchy. You operate under your own mandate and help the people. Absolutely. And so that is the thing that is a little bit tough about it, right? I want our empire to be something that is, though it has its own traditions and symbolism and stuff, is something that looks toward the future, that isn't stuck necessarily with the symbolism of the past. And I worry in recruiting modern man, modern woman, modern people into our ranks, in trying to be associated with the future and with progress and with social development and in achieving what is good and right and just for the people who deserve it. I would hate to be associated with symbols that remind people of pain or remind people of the vast injustices and the social inequality that can be derived from people in power. James says, as long as you don't stray into decadence, then you will have a following. We will support you absolutely. Thank you so much, James. I appreciate that. And that's all I can ask. You know, people who join the empire, people who become citizens, people who become imperials, so to speak. James says the people's king. I appreciate it. Emperor. But the idea of the people's king, you know, the idea of somebody who is ruling justly and ruling through being legitimately merit-based, associated with being the person for the job, somebody who helped to win over the rights of a country or helped to set in motion the events that led to a successful period, somebody who gets put into a monarchical position, put into the monarchy based on the will of the people, at least the people during a certain time. A lot of the time, their benefactors, their successors tend to be people who come after the crown, come after that symbol of power. And so James says, an emperor is just a king who binds up several kingdom titles into one. Absolutely. Although I think, again, just trying to modify the symbolism again. I definitely I definitely agree with you. The historical image, but I would the historical definition. I would just prefer to stray away from the title of king as much as possible. I also think that the emperorship, I want to be a little bit different than a traditional leadership role. There will obviously be perks to it, but I want it to be something that is a responsibility, not something that is a perk. You know, I don't want people to be clamoring after the emperorship to get hold of leadership and power. I want it to be that people put others into that position, thinking that they are the best for the role, and that those people do it as a service to others, that they are a servant to their people, not that they get some particular grand benefit from doing it. And so hopefully that would mean that the people who become emperor after me are people who, one, deserve it, and two, have limited ability to delve into decadence. James says, then add checks and balances. That is a good point, but also tough, right? Part of the ways that I have seen to develop checks and balances have been hard on the people. There tends to be ways, and there's always going to be ways to make something corrupt. But this is just something that we have to think about and forge as we develop our nation. Because, you know, if you develop just a democratic republic style voting system like we have in the US, even parliamentary systems like are in many countries in the UK, in the European Union, there is this thing that tends to come up, which is that people still don't really have a ton of direct representation. You know, there is flaws with the way that we develop modern democracies. And so I'm not necessarily looking to develop a modern democracy. I'm also not necessarily looking to create like a constitutional monarchy. It's tough. I don't know what the exact answer is, the exact solution is, which is why as of now we have been strictly an absolute monarchy, you know. But this is a question that resides on my mind near constantly. You know, if I were to die, if something were to happen to me, what is the best way to take care of the people who are left? What is the best way to ensure that they are given the things that they need and that they have the best chance at going on after I would be gone? It's a tough question. It's something I'd love to make a video about at some point. But that being the case, I don't have a clear-cut answer to that yet. James says, people will always try to find a reason to attack you. Trying to hide from that is fruitless. Agreed. James says, do your best, stick to your ideals. I appreciate it. Thank you, James. And I think you're right. That's a good point. Trying to work on the last bend here, although this one is being particularly finicky. A little too tough for me to bend by hand. Although maybe if I can get it started, it won't be so bad. James says, my idea worked. Starting a political debate doubled our viewership. I appreciate it, James. And I do agree. Having some conversation to go along with, having some controversy does absolutely spike viewership. And so then, James, what is your grand solution? What is your plan for developing the empire? What is, you know, in your mind, what should good nations be? What should you know, governments try to strive for, especially because we are in a unique position. We aren't a nation that is going to be able to command legions of thousands and, you know, have the ability to, you know, face all of our problems head on, being able to instantly, you know, solve and settle the issues that arise in our nation. We will have to come up with creative means of achieving what we want. We will have to follow the arrow of progress in order to truly make something of ourselves and to expand and go beyond what it is that our limitations are at any given point. So that all requires this effort. And the more people that we have associated with the empire, the more people that come about, the more successful we can be in terms of assets, but the more divided our nation will be politically. This is just the nature of it. And so trying to make that difference for our people will be one of my biggest challenges. And hopefully I leave behind a legacy of having done something reasonable in that regard, having put in place a system that continues to last. You know, as we say, Aeternia forever. We want to last 100,000 years if possible, 1,000,000 years. You know, we want to be here long after this stream. We want to be here long after this, you know, this set of people are around. And we want to give the people who follow behind that best chance at continuing forward, keeping themselves safe and happy and progressing. James says, you've been working a while, perhaps it's time to hydrate. I think you're probably right, James. I have gotten about to a point where I will take a couple-minute break. That is a good idea. Thank you for reminding me to take care of myself, James. James, always looking out for the best in people. It means a lot. Real fast, I am trying to catch myself on saying that. I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm going to go ahead and take James' advice, take a break. James says, 15 minutes where I alone must entertain the chat. a battle of the centuries. I appreciate it. What will James come up with? What will he do next on Dragon Ball Z? And again, as James so thoughtfully pointed out, it is time for the Emperor's official water break. So I'll be right back. Aeternia Official Water, the sponsor of this stream. James says, what do you think about blunt ceremonial court swords? Do you think that would be a good addition to people wearing this ceremonial armor? I do, although I think it would absolutely, like you said, have to be particularly ceremonial. I think it would have to be something as well that is, I think it would be something that's, you know, only brought out during ceremony, only brought out during those special occasions. I think, I don't know, depending on the circumstances, I could see it, either swords or potentially even, I don't know if that would work as well. I was going to say like short spears, maybe like a ceremonial, like it's like a staff that, you know, has the actual pointed spearhead on top. I think could be pretty cool and a way to maybe lessen the concern about swords. But even still, ceremonial swords I don't think are seen as too spooky or too concerning. Very well could be. I would say we should design the armor, figure that out, kind of test it out, and then slowly move forward from there. Especially if we can forge those things. If we can get to the point where we can make this plate armor, then eventually moving forward with something that's a higher density than this, a higher quality than this as well, to actually try to forge a sword would be pretty interesting. We would have to figure out exactly how we do that, what materials we need, what we need to be recycling or potentially buying for that purpose. And maybe that's something that is given to, if we were making swords in particular, is given to like high-ranking people within this, within this group that wears the ceremonial armor. I would think, even for all the time and effort it takes for us, the ceremonial armor would be something that is certainly cheaper than purchasing, which would be a big loss if we, purchased a multiple $1,000 suit of armor, tens of thousands of dollars potentially suit of armor, and then gave it to somebody who ended up not being able to use it, or not staying in it long. So being able to make them will certainly be cheaper, and making sure that we have people properly trained and geared up so that when we finally do make their specific suit of armor, that they are people who are going to know their goals, know their place in Aeternia, and be able to push forward with that and achieve things beyond our current comprehension. Being able to really get into the role and expand what it means to be Aeternian. When we talk about what type of ceremonial arm, so to speak, they may have, a sword would be interesting, would be something that'd be a little bit tougher to craft. One reason I lean toward something like a short spear or something, ceremonial staff with that spearhead on top, would be, one, we could still make it fairly dull. Secondly, we could very easily and a lot more cheaply make the pole and decorate it and have it be really nice looking, really high quality, and then all we have to do is cast the tip and actually make that something that is has a screw hinge that we can tap the spear staff with, and actually attach that tip in. It'd be a lot easier to manufacture those. James says, check your DMs if you want. I sent a picture. You pretty much tie the strips of steel together and use cloth under it. I can teach basic swordsmanship if we want to have safe duels. That would be interesting. There are also HEMA clubs around here that do similar things, so that would be wonderful if you would be able to and be available in the future to teach some of those courses, and then as well we can have the people that we want to recruit either directly go and train with these HEMA clubs, or maybe have these HEMA clubs come and do the first couple bouts of our tournament, and we can kind of promote that and go forward. James says, I have a study group that uses traditional European weapons, blunt, for sparring. Absolutely. That would be exciting. I could definitely see it, for sure. Let me see if I can go ahead and finish this guy up. It looks like I didn't fully commit to this one, so we will see how this goes. And then we'll see how many we have left, or how many we have done so far, I should say. Because we're getting quite a good ways through. trying to go back to James' technique. James says, do you have a drill that could go through that steel? Do you have steel cores? We do have a drill that can go through the steel. Steel cores would be a slightly different problem altogether, although one we could work through. I'm sure we could purchase some steel cords at some point without too much difficulty. One of the other things that I have been thinking about in going along with all of this is rivets. Rivets are something that we will need to be able to make any kind of steel armor or any sort of other similar type of decoration, ceremonial wear. And so in working with rivets, there is a particular, you can take a nail, for example, and turn it into a rivet. If you have a particular shaped tool for blacksmithing, one that I would like to get eventually, either purchasing a nice one would be ideal, or trying to, make our own rigged version, which would be cheaper, but certainly less effective. We'll have to see if I can make something that's functional. James says, how are you guys doing? Other 3 people watching the video. Also, thank you guys for being here and sticking around. It certainly means a lot. Again, this is the toil that gets the spoils, so to speak. We are working our way into the ability to make something very, very cool. And I feel as though this stream may be viewed as a little bit underwhelming in comparison to streams we have done, working at Vitae and doing things like that. However, I do feel like this will be incredibly valuable for some, especially those who are looking to grow their nations, those looking to develop crafts like this. This technique that we are working with, certainly not a perfect one, but it is one that hopefully when we come out with the end result of all of this labor, when we start to produce the crafts that we will through this method, people will start asking the question, how did you make that? Oh my goodness, wow, that's so cool. How'd you make that? That must have cost a lot to buy. Nope, didn't. Just took a lot of effort, and we showed how to do it in a previous live stream that is available to watch. And you all will be able to say that you were here making history, being a part of this endeavor. If you run a nation, if you run a craft channel, something like that, you will be able to take advantage of this technique long before others. Now, I'm sure there have been people who have done this before me, but within our circle, we are expanding to new technologies and new techniques. And especially with micronationalism, there's a lot of stuff that you can buy your way into. But as we are trying to develop nations, we have to think about budgeting. Unless you are a multimillionaire who is creating their own nation, in which case you can well surpass just about any micronation out there as of right now. But eventually, your budget will run thin. Your economy cannot be propped up by you and you alone, and your people cannot be supported without their own trades, without their own skills, without their own customer bases, without their own interested parties in what it is they do and why it is they do it. And so, over time, that is something that we have to be able to make for ourselves. We have to be able to work and work and work and find these industries that provide us most benefit and use them as our strategy going forward. So that leads us to our efforts here. James asked a couple questions here. I'm going to go back up. James says, I'm thinking we could tie the plates together to make a brigandine of sorts, that would be interesting. I think that would probably be one of the quickest solutions there. James says, progress like this is important. It's a building block for our big projects. I completely agree. James also says, AP, what would you consider court regalia? Would you be the person to use ornate objects or a small or a smart suit? Excuse me, ornate robes or a smart suit, casual clothing or more military uniform or armor. I think it depends on the position that different people are in. I would like to even make a more ornate ceremonial dress than this. I would like to have something a little bit more fancy as we continue to develop. The design of that, I am a little uncertain of. I don't want to go too medieval. I would like something that feels a little bit modern, but I don't just want to wear a smart suit, as you're saying. I think it is a little bit tough. I do want us to have that unique aesthetic, that culture that when people see it, go, that is Aeternian. That, you know, those people, what they're doing right there, that's an Aeternian thing. At the same time, I think that not everybody should be in, you know, a full suit of armor. We shouldn't look like a military legion. We also, you know, shouldn't be like many micronational leaders are, completely decked out, and other micronationals completely decked out in medals from awards we gave ourselves or that other micronations gave us. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't see that as our style, particularly military-esque form. I think for me, a lot of our culture should stem from the different positions that people are in the empire. So myself having the emperorship, having kind of a unique form of ceremonial wear would be interesting. Again, something that has a touch of modernity to it, but also has some traditional, some cultural elements would be interesting. Having the people who are, you know, a part of that ceremonial group that we will have, that ceremonial armored corps, so to speak, should absolutely be in their nice armor. You know, when we hold ceremonies, when we hold courts, when we hold any sort of formal meeting of government, I think there will be different forms of people who will be in different things. There may be some people who are more, you know, in a business role, or people who are more in, you know, foreign relations, things like that, who may not be in metal armor, but who may also not be in you know, a super, you know, formal suit either. There may be people who are in like robes of some sort, you know, ceremonial robes. There may be people who, like you were saying, ceremonial robes. There may be people who are in, I imagine that there will be a variety, is what I'm trying to get at. James says, Sweden, Norway, UK use Napoleonic military uniform, military dress uniforms for this, or so it appears. Absolutely. And again, I think even though a lot of human history has been based around, and therefore culture has been based around military, whether, you know, for appearances, for, you know, the fact that it may be a little bit intimidating or show an effort of seriousness, I can respect that, but I do not think it is our way. I think, you know, not necessarily adopting headdresses and things like that, not trying to go after the same style, so to speak, but the fact that places like, you know, the North and South American continents prior to European conquest, you know, their societies had very unique, very interesting dress, and a lot of that as well was military, but it was significantly different than the traditional Western military styles that we think of. You know, the Japanese had a lot of robes, had a lot of, you know, some had plate armor and things like that. Again, a lot of military, but different than the Western military that we traditionally think of. in like feudal Japan, for example. I think having inspiration from societies that did things different than the standard we see today is nice, but you're absolutely right. We do have to find something. Now, I just think that something should try to be as unique as possible. We don't want to go too weird. We don't want to do something that is so unique that it is outlandish or off-putting, but we also don't want to stick to traditional norms. I think trying to be like everyone else is a big problem. And I think, you know, the more that we craft a unique culture, the better it is for us to stand out and the better it is for us to justify our claims. So yes, we do need to find something, though I don't think it should be something that is rushed into. Okay, because the weather is picking up a little bit and my phone is at 27%, we're doing okay. What I'm going to do is I am going to finish this last piece, finish out the last questions we have, if anybody has any, and then I will bid you all a farewell for this evening. We probably won't be back tomorrow just because there is a lot for us to do, a lot on our plate, but we will be back for more in short order. All right. James says, wait, my phone is also at 27. Wow. Hey, similar phones. Very cool. We're slowly destroying our battery lives. I appreciate you, James. Also, thank you for being here. James, especially being, of course, our citizen, but also somebody who has just put an incredible amount into making these streams better than they would be if I were just hammering silently, trying to connect with you guys, trying to do things when I am not able to actively talk to you. Is a great benefit to our nation, to our empire, and ultimately to its culture. He's helping to shape what it is to be Aeternian, to follow that arrow of progress, as he has done so many times before. As well, thank you to everybody else who has been here. I'm not sure who all is in the chat currently because we don't have a lot of commenters at the moment, but I see that there are 4 people watching us. So to those 4 of you who have been here, who are helping us to make the difference, helping us to make history here in the Empire, we do not forget you. Thank you for making us a part of your daily ritual when we do streams. Thank you for popping into here and supporting us, even if it's just for a little bit. Because we are trying to grow our subscriber base, we are trying to grow our empire, and we are well on the way. This one's pretty good. Calling it, we have 1, 2, 3. That's one of our welded pieces. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have ended on an odd number, but that is all right. Let me double check to make sure there aren't any that I'm missing. Nope, we are currently at 13 of these. However, that being the case, 13 of these in these cans, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 would look like this. So big jumble of these versus this. About the same weight, but you can tell the density is a lot better here. A lot of increased density there. We also are able to use these a lot more functionally. So we have made a good bit of progress, a good bit of value for the Empire today. As always, thank you all for being here, and thank you for making Aeternia a better place. James brings up something very important. He says, "Glory to Aeternia. Please be sure to check out our Discord, support us by joining our Patreon, and look to our website for more information." Absolutely. If you want to become a part of the Empire, if you want to help make your mark like James has, definitely check us out. Definitely consider becoming a citizen. Let's see. Wizard B jumped in. Hello, Wizard B. Thank you for being here, and thank you for liking the stream. James says, "Let me know what you think of the armor I sent you. I think we could make it easily with the resources we have." I'm glad to hear that, and I'm excited to discuss it. Wizard B says hello. James says hi, Wizard B. Arthur says K. Great to see you, Arthur. Daniel says Aeternia. Great to see you, Daniel. Wizard B says you would be better off with a forging hammer. No, I'm pretty sure every professional blacksmith uses this type of hammer. This is the hammer to go with. In the future, we will probably get a blacksmithing hammer, but for now, we work with what we have. Thank you all. Great to see you, and as always, Aeternia forever. Bye, everybody.